there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I'm John. I am a GenXGrownUp. Thank you for checking out this video and the channel. I've noticed a new trend lately, you probably have too. Board game companies have started to capitalize on Gen X era arcade game classics. We took a look at the Space Invaders dice game not too long ago. I'll throw a link up in the corner up there if you want to take a look at that one. But lately something new caught my eye and I couldn't pass it up. It's this new Pac-Man board game. Now there was a Pac-Man board game in the 80s and that was pretty junky maybe. You had 4 different Pac-Men of different colors. They were picking up marbles on a playboard and it was really just kind of like a Pac-Man version of Hungry Hungry Hippos, and it wasn't very elegant and it wasn't very Pac-Man-y. This one's brand new. I found it at Target. It's only 20 bucks surprisingly. The back of the box touts rediscover the arcade classic all over again. The front even says Waka Waka authentic arcade sounds. I had to see what that was all about. And we're gonna look now, if this is your first time watching GenXGrownUp, see the little bar that lifts, has that subscribe button in the corner. Give that a click, enable those notifications. You can watch way more of our Gen X inspired content. All right, no more beating around the bush. Let's take a look at this new Pac-Man board game and see what it has to offer. We have some instructions, which we will check those out later. Like part of the board looks like the ghost pin. Some cards, some little stickers. I'm assuming that decorate the board. We'll find out in a second. Some icons. This is fun looking. So we have our blue ghost, our Pac-Man. We got some power pellets, fruit, some bonuses here, and then the ghosts after they've been eaten, where they're just eyes. Oh, they're double-sided. This is a kind of a well-made little board game. Score pad. Okay. Oh, and the board is so. You can tell this, it's actually not just like a cardboard board. It's enormous. Look at this. It's got 4 giant tiles that makes what's going to be an enormous, wow, holy moly. Okay. We got some dice and some little pegs, which represent dots, I think, from what I saw there. And hiding over here, here's our Pac-Man and our ghosts. Pac-Man looks great. Of course, he's all round, so he's got a little base so he can stand up. That's fine. Yeah, so all 4 of the ghosts. And the Pac-Man figure itself makes sound. It's kind of an anemic Waka Waka, but there it is. Now, before we play, there's some first-time setup to take care of. First, I need to punch out all these little scoring tokens from their cardboard sheet. We have all of these little yellow pegs which represent the dots that Pac-Man is going to eat. The board comes with none of them installed, so you get the pleasure of plugging in all these tiny little yellow pegs. I'm going to do it as if I'm running through the maze, because why wouldn't I? What you're left with then is all these little pegs that are raised just slightly to represent dots, so when Pac-Man steps on them, he squishes it down and he makes a little noise. So I unwrap this little deck of cards. They're all identical on the back, and the faces look to vary between like ghost movement and fruit cards later on here. Have a few decals to apply, including this little start sticker, which is where Pac-Man begins his journey. Now that arts and crafts time is complete, let's take the game for a spin. At the start of your turn as Pac-Man, you get just 1 life to amass as many points as possible. Roll all 3 dice and make your way through the maze, pushing down the little dot pegs as you go. Assuming you haven't hit a power pellet, it's the ghost turn. Flip one of the ghost movement cards to determine how many spaces each one can move. Ghosts must move in the order they appear on the card, but if they're blocked, they get skipped that turn. They can't pass through one another unless they've been eaten and are just eyes, and they must always travel in a constant path. Now it's Pac-Man's turn again. Roll all 3 dice and start your move, pushing down dots as you go. On this round, we'll hit a power pellet, which ends your movement, but starts the power pellet minigame. During this segment, the ghosts are vulnerable. Roll 1 die at a time and chase ghosts or get away, whichever you need to do. Any ghosts caught during this phase should be replaced with their eyes, and you collect a ghost token. Sometimes you'll draw a fruit card. Put the next available fruit, cherry, strawberry, or orange, on Pac-Man's start spot and then redraw for movement as usual. It's worth noting you can also play in what they call arcade mode, in which each player gets 3 lives instead of just 1, and you count up scoring from the dots you ate in case you just really enjoy math. Now this takes even longer, but is much more forgiving in case you get an unlucky roll of the dice or draw of the cards. Pac-Man can move in any direction he wants and reverse at will, but of course he can't pass through ghosts. In this case, Pac-Man left himself too close to the ghost and he gets eaten. This player's turn is over. At the end of your turn, you will have amassed some scoring tokens. You'll get them for any fruit or ghost you may have eaten, Plus, any quadrant of the board that you cleared of all of its little dots will have earned you an 800-point dot bonus token. Add it all up based on the values in the instructions and enter your score on the provided score sheet. The game says it can handle up to 5 players, but each player not playing Pac-Man controls one or more of the ghosts, and they'll each get a round of playing as the Pac-Man character to accrue the highest possible score. The only real downside to this is the need to clear off the board, flip it over, and reset all those little dot pegs between players' rounds. This can be time-consuming and a little tedious. And if you have 5 players, it means you'll run through the game 5 times, so it can be kind of time-consuming. I found that a 2-player game is just as satisfying and required less reset. Should you be lucky enough to finish the board and clear all the dots, the same player gets a reset board and some yellow bordered ghost movement cards are added to the deck. They have much higher values which approximate the ghosts speeding up as you enter level 2. I think this was a clever way for the board game to get harder and simulate the video game's behavior. I've got to admit, I didn't expect this much game for 20 bucks. Usually when you see a Pac-Man or Space Invaders or whatever board game, they've taken the brand, they've stamped it on a generic board game, and they're just doing a cash grab. That's not the case here. They really captured a lot of the mechanics of Pac-Man, the strategy of Pac-Man. I love the Power Pellet minigame that they threw in as a really great way to handle a time-limited thing that happens in the game, but inside of the scope of a board game. If you can get over that minor tedium of the time it takes to reset, there's a lot of great real Pac-Man gameplay to be had here. When I was playing with my wife and daughter, the comment that they had was, boy, what if like the Pac-Man moved and it was lighting up lights, it was electronic? Or what if when it was time to change players, you just pushed a button and all the little lights came back on or went back off? And I'm like, you know what? That's starting to sound like a video game that Pac-Man already is. So it's hard to ding the board game too much for not being exactly the video game. It's a mechanical version. Think of it like Mousetrap. There's a very mechanical thing you have to do to set up between turns. It doesn't bother me. It really kind of adds to the charm of taking this digital game and turning it into a physical board game. So for a rating, I'm going to give this brand new Pac-Man board game 4.25 tokens out of 5. If you're a Pac-Man fan or just a board game fan, I think there's a lot for you to enjoy in this new version. Speaking of enjoy, I hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye. GenXGrownUp is dedicated to bringing you new Generation X inspired videos every week. Here are a couple more you can watch right now, but for even more, subscribe and enable those notifications. And if you love what we do, we invite you to support us over on Patreon. And of course, your feedback in the comments and a quick thumbs up are always appreciated.